जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजना यमुना तीरावनचारी यमुना तीरावनचारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजना यमुना तीरावनचारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे निताय गौरा हरि बोल निताय गौरा हरि बोल जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद Start with some invocation prayers for the Guru Parampara or our spiritual preceptors. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanasalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Please, if you know them, please do chant. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamai Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padamscha Sagana Lalita Sri Visakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Panchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhyev cha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vakam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yatka Kripatamaham Vande Sri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Mishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat Hare Krishna. Okay, so actually I liked Yamunapati's introduction. I think it seemed kind of appropriate considering the topic of my class. So he was saying how we have people who have been practicing for many years and people who have come new. Do we have any newcomers here? Come here for the first time. Okay, welcome, and thank you so much for gracing us with your presence. If you have any questions, either during the class, I'll keep it open at the end if you have questions. If not, if you want to talk privately, you can ask any of the brahmacharis here, myself. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate. So, so this class, as I was thinking about this class for the last couple of days, I was thinking about, my life and thinking about this class, and I was thinking about getting back to basics. So let me explain a little bit why I say that. For those of us who've been practicing for many years or trying to practice as it goes, it's important that sometimes we go back to basics and review the foundational concepts of Bhakti Yoga of Krishna consciousness. The reason why I say that is because we are in this material world. We have a life that can be very difficult to navigate as spiritual seekers in the material world. And a lot of times we get derailed and sidetracked and derailed. And I actually found myself in that kind of a situation recently because I was feeling like I was not utilizing the opportunities that were given me by Srila Prabhupada to really, really practice my faith, if you want to say. And I don't know if I like that word because Srila Prabhupada calls it our dharma, our Sanatana dharma. So, what I want to do today with this class was, first of all, talk about some of the foundational concepts, the basics, what Srila Prabhupada said, were the basic understandings, the simplest terms that we need to understand. Then I wanted to actually tell a story from the Srimad Bhagavatam that talks about somebody who was derailed and what happened. And then I want to give maybe some tips that I found helped me to get back on track. Okay, so hopefully I'll be able to do that. And I'm going to try and I have a tendency of talking fast. And I talk all over the place like this and this, and I sometimes get away from the mic. And if you can't hear me, or if I'm talking too fast, just raise your hand like this, and I will slow down. Okay, so thank you for that. So the basics. So the verse that I picked today was from the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 20, verses 108 and 109. And it actually addresses these main basic concepts. So that's what I liked, this verse. Interesting enough, it has been cited the past couple of days many times. So I thought, okay, this is a good one. So it goes, and forgive my Bengali, because it's in Bengali. So, Jivera Swarupa Haya Krishnera Nityadas, Krishnera Tatasta Shakti Beda Beda Prakash. Suryamsa Kirana Yaicha Agni Jvala Chaya Swabhavika Krishnera Tina Prakara Sekti Haya. Translation. It is the living entity's constitutional position to be an eternal servant of Krishna, because he is the marginal energy of Krishna in a manifestation simultaneously one with and different from the Lord, like a molecular particle of sunshine or fire. Krishna has 3 varieties of energies. So that's the translation. And so I'll give you a little bit of background of the verse. So Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami are the main, I guess, the main preceptors, the main disciples that were given instruction by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to explain the process of Krishna consciousness. Sanatana Goswami is a minister in the government at that time, very, very knowledgeable, very, very educated, quite wealthy, and high position. And he approaches Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and says, "Who am I? I don't understand. What is my position? What am I supposed to do?" So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains this verse, says this verse to him. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada cites Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and he explains this verse as follows, and this is a quote. Sri Sanatana Goswami asked Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, "Who am I?" In answer, the Lord replied, "You are a pure living entity. You are neither the gross material body nor the subtle body composed of mind and intelligence. Actually, you are a spirit soul, eternally part and parcel of the Supreme Soul, Krishna. Therefore, you are his eternal servant. You belong to Krishna's marginal potency. There are 2 worlds, the spiritual world and the material world, and you are situated between the material and spiritual potencies. You have a relationship with both the material and the spiritual world. Therefore, you are called the marginal potency. You are related with Krishna as one and simultaneously different. Because you are spirit soul, you are one in quality with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But because you are a very minute particle of spirit soul, you are different from the Supreme Soul. Therefore, your position is simultaneously one with and different from the Supreme Soul. The examples given are those of the sun itself and the small particles of sunshine, and of a blazing fire and the small particles of fire." So he explains there. So we'll go a little bit in depth into those 3 different aspects. So who am I? So the questions we want to ask is, who am I? Where did I come from? And where am I going? Okay. And so who am I is explained in this verse, and I'll elaborate on that a little bit. So, Prabhupada gives the example that, and it's in the Chaitanya Charitamrita also, Adi Lila, in the purport, he gives an example that just like we are similar to Krishna in the sense that we are Satchitananda. So 3 aspects, Satchitananda, full of bliss, truth, and eternality. That is our nature. The same as the Supreme Lord. Whereas we are minute in those qualities, he is infinite in those qualities. Another aspect of the nature of the soul, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained, is that our eternal intrinsic nature is that of a servant. So we are only happy when we are serving. So whether we are serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead or we're serving Maya, then that is our position of how we do it. And our goal is to align ourselves with the Supreme Lord and connect with him and do our service with him. And Prabhupada explains that only by connecting with the source do we find true happiness. So he gives the example of a fog. And he says, just like the fog can obscure the light of a particle of sunlight, but it can't obscure the sun completely. The sun is still there. But the particle is obscured by this. And this fog is like that Maya. So that's one thing. What else? Intrinsic nature is to serve. We're Satchitananda Vigraha. Let me think, what else did I want to say? So in quantity, we are minute, and in quality, we're similar. He's obviously infinite, we are finite. Okay, though the 3 energies, spiritual, material, and marginal. His spiritual energy is consisting of a spiritual world and all those energies. And material energy is this material world, the mind, intelligence, false ego, everything that we see. And the marginal energy is the living entity. Now, the living entity, marginal, and the reason why it calls marginal is because the living entity can either choose the external Maya energy, the material, or this internal spiritual energy of the Lord. That is where the free will comes in, and that's where we can choose. So, so that's who I am. Where are we from? Originally, we are from the spiritual world. We are originally with Krishna, and and we were serving him quite happily. But then we had a little thought: I want to be master. I want to be lorded over. And so Krishna said, fine. Here is the material world for you, and, have at it. Have fun, go see. But he led us to have the free will. Why? Because that's what love is, right? That's what love is. When the children are older and they want to be free, they say, let them go, right? They have to choose. And you want them to come back to you eventually, right? You want them to choose the kind of life that you know would be good for them. But you can't force them, right? That's not love. And so everybody says, well, if Krishna's so powerful, why doesn't he just make us do it? Well, your dad could be super powerful like the president, and he can make you do a lot of things, but is that true love? Or if you're, somebody who loves you, if he forces you to stay with him, is that true love? No, it's not true love. And of course, the basis of any true relationship is love. And one thing I want to clarify is when I say servant, I don't want you to think of slave. Okay, so a lot of times when people hear the word servant, they have a very negative connotation, thinking like some kind of a slave mentality. It's not that. It's just that something that our inherent nature is to serve. And if you see, we naturally, how do we show love to the people that we love? We do stuff for them, right? You can buy stuff, but it's not the same as doing something. And words, you can say, I love you, but we all know the term actions speak louder than words, right? How do you show love? You do stuff for that person. So in that same way, this is how we show love, and by doing stuff for Krishna. And my spiritual master explains so sweetly that Krishna actually enjoys increasing our pleasure, and we enjoy serving him. And it keeps going infinitesimally up and up as this relationship with the Lord that we have, this loving relationship that we have with the Lord. So there's that. So talked about that. Now, where are we going? And I think, and it depends on where you want to go. Okay, so I want to tell a story from the Srimad Bhagavatam. And anybody who knows the story of Jadabharata, please excuse me. There is so much in the story of Jadabharata. And if you ever have a chance, it's in the 5th canto. Wonderful, very, very detailed purports. Prabhupada gives very, very nice analysis about all this relationship, about the position of the living entity and everything. Please do read that. But I actually just wanted to highlight this one story because it actually talks about someone who was derailed. So this is the story of Jadabharata, and he was actually King Bharat. So what happens, King Bharat was a devotee of the Lord, a very, very pious king, very much took care of his citizens very, very lovingly, just like a father would, living along the lines of our Varnashrama system, very, very devout and everything. At the end of his life, as is tradition, Varnashrama system, he gives up the kingdom, gives it to his children to take over and everything, retires to the forest to completely contemplate upon the Lord and focus on his devotion. So he's meditating and doing things. Everything's going very, very nicely. Then one day as he's meditating, he hears a loud roar. And he's meditating by the river. He hears a loud roar and then a splash. He opens his eyes and he notices that a deer who has been frightened by this roaring of the lion has just, spontaneously given birth to her doe and has died on the bank. And the doe has fallen into the river. So he gets up, and of course, being, a very compassionate person, he picks up the doe and takes it and says, I got to take care of this stuff. And he's the doe is there and he's taking care of it, but he's, practicing his devotion. Eventually what happens is he becomes very attached to that doe. And all this time, as he has been concentrating on Supreme Lord, concentrating on his devotion, his bhakti, he gets sidetracked by this attachment to this doe. And we're not saying you should not show compassion to animals. That's nowhere what the Bhagavatam is saying. But he becomes unnaturally attached to the doe. And so, he's contemplating this and so attached that instead of concentrating on what his initial purpose was at the end of his life, his initial purpose to focus on his devotion, he started focusing on, oh my God, is the deer fed? Oh my God, where is the deer? Oh my God, all this just completely, distracted from his path. So one day the doe doesn't show up. And he is hunting, he's looking around for where's this doe. It's the middle of the night. It hasn't come back. He falls, hurts himself, and dies. Since he's thinking of the doe at the end of his life, right? Yam yam vapi swaram bhavam, that verse, where Krishna explains to Arjuna that whatever you think of at the time of death, that's where you'll go. So he becomes a deer in his next birth. But because he has come to such a point in his bhakti, in his devotional service, he remembers his life as a devotee. So, the fact that all of you are here now is a testament to the fact that, number one, either ajñata sukruti, which means that you had some unknown pious credit to your name, or you have made some progress on your spiritual path to be able to come to this point where you are in the presence of Sri Sri Radha Giridhari, Jagannath Baldev Subhadra, Gaur Nitai, and our Srila Prabhupada. So this is a blessing. So this is where we continue our progress. So, because Prabhupada, it explains about Gita that whatever progress you've made in your past life, it's not lost. That wherever you came to in that point, that's where you'll continue from. So because his devotion was so strong at one point, and because for many, many years he had practiced, and because of the mercy of Krishna, he actually remembered his birth as King Bharata and how he was attached to deer, and he became a deer in his next body. And he actually stayed near the ashram of some saints, some sages, and was just around there, with those holy people, imbibing all that atmosphere. End of his life, as a deer he dies, and then he's born as Jada Bharata. And as Jada Bharata, he is born in a Brahmin family, so he has a good birth. But he has taken the initiative to act dumb, because he does not want to get distracted by everything else in his family life. So he has decided from birth that he is just going to focus on Krishna. So he lives out his life acting like he doesn't know anything, where he's continuously contemplating upon the Supreme Lord in his life. He goes through a whole bunch of different things in his life, and and near the end, or a part of those things at the one point, is that he comes in contact with Maharaj Rahugana. And Maharaj Rahugana is a king. He's on his way to another ashrama, Kapilashrama, and he's getting carried on a palanquin by his bearers. But one of the palanquin bearers hurts himself or something. They need another person. So they see Jada Bharata. He's there, and he's very strong, very stout, and they think, okay, we'll take him. And they say, we need you to, serve the king. Come and carry this palanquin to this ashrama. So he's, fine, that's my very humble. And he said, yeah, sure, they'll do that. So he also, is carrying the palanquin one side. Well, he's, his compassionate nature as a devotee. How is he carrying the palanquin? Is he doesn't want to step on any ants. So he's like jumping around, and the other guys are just walking along normally, and he's like jumping this way and that way. And the king is like getting very upset and going, what is your problem? Are you stupid? Are you this? And he starts insulting him, all these things. And then at that point, Jada Bharata begins explaining to him this whole process of who you are, kind of like what I just said, who you are, where you want to be. You're not this body. The first thing we want to try and understand or realize is that we're not this body. And, being in this material world and being householders as we are, that does not mean in any way give up your responsibilities. That does not mean that we're going to be like Jada Bharta and pretend like we are deaf and dumb and don't know anything. That's not what the message is. The message is that whatever we do in our life as householders, we need to dovetail that in our devotion, make that a part of our devotion, not a separate material and spiritual life, but whatever we do in our life, taking care of our children, taking care of our families, that is done as a service because Krishna has given us this responsibility. We're not going to run away and say, I'm joining the temple and I don't want you anymore. That's not what we want. What we want is we want to make our life so imbued with Krishna consciousness that, number one, we're as an example to people, and also that we can fulfill these responsibilities as responsible devotees of Radha Giridhari and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that's what Jada Bharata does. He explains everything to Maharaj Rahugana, and Maharaj Rahugana, understanding he's a pious king, understanding that he's made a mistake, that he's been insulting to a Brahmin, he immediately gets down, offers his obeisances. And of course, this reminds me of class that Dravida Prabhu gave on Friday when he was explaining about how Jagain Marai didn't do any Vaishnava Parada, didn't do any insulting or blaspheming a devotee. That's why they were able to get the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Here's an example of somebody who did blaspheme a devotee, and the lesson we're given here is that we need to apologize. Immediately understand, because we make mistakes. We all make mistakes, inadvertently or purposely. And anytime we realize we've done that, we should immediately apologize and ask forgiveness for any mistakes we made, because that will be detrimental to our spiritual life. So that's Jada Bharata. So eventually, like I said, he was derailed, but by the mercy of Krishna, he came back. Many of you, like I said, are here. You get on track. So, we need to decide, like I said, where we want to go. And if we want to go back home, back to Godhead, if we want to be with Krishna, then we need to align ourselves in such a way that we are being able to get back to Krishna. So the other thing I want to say, so I said, the law of karma is in there. There's, like I said, there's so much to cover, and I don't want to get sidetracked on those things by going into other more details. So that's thing. So then I wanted to talk about giving some tips that I found. And like I said, I was thinking in myself that I needed to focus more on my devotion. Not focus more, but be more serious. And that's what Srila Prabhupada explains. And there's a verse in, let me see, I put this verse in here. Where is that verse? What did he say? Where is this? Oh, that if one wants to, Krishna, did I put it in here? Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. Let me find the verse. Okay. I'll just don't remember. I put it in here. Okay, so Prabhupada explains also in the purport that the way to be able to cut that connection to the identification as the body is by service to the Supreme Lord. So getting on that note, I want to give some tips which I found were helpful for me to get back on track. So, okay, it says, let me think where it's, okay. It is, I can't even remember, I think it was just a Chaitanya Charitamrita, or I think it's Srinvatashadamakish, but that's not what it was. If I remember, I'll tell you one line in Dravida Prabhu, you can help me, okay? So Prabhupada explains, I know what I wanted to talk about. That's why Prabhupada says that his Krishna consciousness was put in place. He said, why are we here? Forgetting that he is an eternal servant of Krishna and the service to Krishna is his only business, one is doomed by material nature to serve the objects of the senses. One should kill mental concoctions by the sword of service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotee. So that was the one that I want to say about how we needed to disconnect from that connection to the material body and connect to Krishna by service to Krishna and Guru. And then, and we can see, so how does Krishna help us get back on track? That's what I want to talk about. How does Krishna get back to us? Well, he tells us, he gives us, he sends us either himself, like Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or he sends his pure devotee, like Srila Prabhupada. We have many, many examples in the scriptures of different devotees who have been searching and have been trying to find the next step on their path of devotion. And who should show up but Narada Muni? So many times Narada Muni. We have the case of Dhruva Maharaj when he was looking for he was looking for a kingdom better than his father's, but he found the Supreme Lord. Narada Muni was there. He had come to a point in his devotional service and he was getting sidetracked. Narada Muni came back and said, "Hey, you want your kingdom, the kingdom of your father? Yeah, this is the way you do it." But then when he was going to get it, he realized, oh, wait a minute, this is not what I really want. I want Krishna. So he got back on track, after a little bit of finagling this way and that way. Prahlad Maharaj, Narada Muni came to him. Prahlad Maharaj was in the womb of his mother. And just by hearing Narada Muni's teachings and his chanting, then Bhakta Prahlad became... He was Bhakta Prahlad. He was his devotion became even more strengthened. So in that way, Srila Prabhupada has come himself. And it's really cute because we are talking to the kids about this same concept of who am I and stuff, and how do we know where to go and who teaches us and stuff. And one of the kids asked, but Srila Prabhupada's not here. How do we know what to do? And one of the other girls said, oh, well, Srila Prabhupada's books. I'm like, yes. Thank you. It's like these little moments in teaching with children that when they say something, then you're like, oh, I'm so glad they got that. If they remember nothing, at least they remember to get Srila Prabhupada's book, whatever they do. So that's what I love. So tips to do to somehow get back on track. So the first one is take the medicine. So what is the medicine? The medicine is, how you have, if you have conjunctivitis, they give you that medicine for your eye. If you have a cough, they give you something for your cough. In that same way, Prabhupada has put in place this whole Krishna conscious movement, the whole aspects, and that's the quote that I want to talk about. He says in here specifically, where does he say this? Let me think. It says, so we can become immediately, Krishna, where is this? He said, this is from the Chaitanya Charitamrita Majjhila again. And therefore, so many arrangements. We are having Krishna deity here, and every one of us, we are engaged as servant. Sri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana Srungaratan Mandira Marjanado. Somebody is engaged in cleansing the temple. All servant we are. Somebody is engaged in dressing the deity. Somebody is engaged in preparing nice food stuff for the deity. Somebody is making flower garlands. Somebody is going to distribute literature to make people understand the glories of Krishna. So in this way, Krishna consciousness movement means everyone is engaged 10% to become a servant of Krishna. So those who are sincerely engaged in the service of the Lord, they are all liberated. They are all liberated. So that is the medicine. The medicine that Srila Prabhupada has given us, they give you a diet and a medicine, right, to take. So this engagement of all our senses in these activities, just like you take, eye medicine for conjunctivitis, we have, seeing the deity. We take a certain diet. Doctor tells you got to take a certain diet. You can't eat all this stuff. We take Krishna Prasadam. We're chanting. Chanting is our daily ritual, our daily exercise is to chant our rounds, to connect with the Lord. So that's one thing. So that's the medicine. Take the medicine. And this is a very, very important point. And this, for me, was very, very relative. And this is what made me kind of, seize the opportunity. So that's what it is. Seize the opportunities for service. So as I was saying, I was like feeling like I was not progressing or not really taking seriously my Krishna consciousness. So it's interesting that I was thinking in this way about these things, and I was thinking I need to do more, and then Balaram comes to me 2 days later and says, will you please give the class? And I'm like, okay, Pani, seize the opportunity. Krishna is giving you that opportunity to speak about him. Take that opportunity. So that talks about another thing. Remember, Dravida Prabhu again was talking about Bolo Krishna, Bhajo Krishna, Koro Krishna Siksha, right? He said what? Chant the names of Krishna, worship Krishna, and then teach about Krishna to others. So this was that opportunity. The message was given on Friday, right? And I was thinking, okay, seize the opportunity. Yes, I'll do the class. So that was one thing. And then a couple days after that, they were saying they need more help at the temple. Can people come and help? And I thought, my life is busy. Can I do this? And then I remembered, what they always say in those self-help manuals, that that to be emotionally and physically and emotionally and psychologically, whatever, healthy, you need to take self-care, right? You got to take care of yourself. And then I was thinking, well, what about taking care of my true self? How do I take care of my true self? Well, the true self is a spirit soul. And that there's that story. Okay, I'm going to tell this story because I love this story. I have a little bit of time. Have you guys heard the story about the bird in the cage? Okay, so the bird, I love this story, okay. The story of the bird in the cage. So there's one lady, and she's, wonderful singer and stuff. She's singing, and she buys this bird, and she has this beautiful cage, and she puts the bird in the cage, and she's thinking, oh, I'm going to sing, and the bird's going to sing with me, and she's singing, she's all happy. And then she goes around, and she's, polishing her cage, and oh, this cage is so beautiful, da-da-da. The bird's singing, and she's also singing. And, she starts doing all kinds of things and decorates the cage and does this and does that, and the bird's sitting there totally food, I want food and water, and the bird's, not singing that much anymore, and it's kind of going dwindling, and she's still singing completely oblivious to the fact the bird in the cage is like, slowly, dying, just dying of hunger and thirst and everything. And she's continuously polishing her cage. Many days later, the bird dies, and she's thinking, what happened to the bird? The cage is so beautiful. Well, if you take care of the body and you don't take care of the soul will dwindle. The soul will dwindle. It doesn't die, because the soul doesn't die, but it gets lost in the material world, and it falls into those species of life that do not have that ability to use their intelligence to connect with the Supreme Lord. Because this human body is a gift given to us where we have the intelligence to connect with the Lord, to ask, who am I? Why am I here? And where do I want to go? The dog can't ask that, it doesn't happen, unless he's like Jada Bharata, they're very few and rare. There are some, I remember that my Guru Maharaj was explaining about how, I know I'm digressing, but I got to tell this story too, I'm sorry, that there was a dog that would come into the temple in Mayapur and offer obeisances to Srila Prabhupada and walk out every day. So, we don't know, and I remember Srila Prabhupada writing in some of the purports that, in the Holy Dham, these birds and animals and things, we don't know who they are. They could be another Jada Bharata. So we should be very, very careful. Okay, going back. So take the medicine. Seize opportunities for service. So, so like I said, self-care is, true self-care is spiritual nature, taking care of my spiritual nature. So seize those opportunities. The other one, hearing. The verse in the Bhagavatam, one of my favorite verses. Shrunvata sraddhaya nityam grunatascha svacheshtitam kalena nati dirgena bhagavan vishate hrudi. Persons who hear Srimad Bhagavatam regularly and are always taking the matter very seriously, that word very seriously, will have the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, manifested in their hearts within a short period of time. That, I don't know, that when I hear that verse, it just makes me so happy, because it's in my hands. I have to hear, and I have to take it seriously. Remember what I said about my spiritual life was getting kind of shaky, wasn't taking it seriously, and this is the verse that I concentrate on. I think, okay, so That was 3, right? Take the medicine, seize opportunities, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing, chanting the name. And then the other one, each one teach one, right? And we know that as a teacher, I know, and many of you don't have to be a teacher. When you're teaching somebody something, you know that that's when you learn the best, right? Because you really have to, you just can't just take it in. You have to really be able to explain it to somebody. And that's why for me, giving class, I feel is so important for my spiritual benefit because, like I said, I can realign. I can rethink, why am I doing this? See, I can't sit up here and fake it. I have to be able to speak from experience. And it's only when I have had the experience, even if it's a little bit, and it's only a little bit, it's not like I'm a pure devotee and I'm like, chanting all the time and I'm in bliss like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I'm nowhere near that. Nowhere near that. Don't think that just because I'm sitting on this Vyasasana that I have some, magical something. It's nothing like that. It's only, as I said in the beginning, the Mukam Karoti verse, the verse I last chanted, it's only by the mercy of my spiritual master and Srila Prabhupada. I probably have the gift of gab, that I can acknowledge. I talk well, but I could talk about a whole bunch of things that's not very important, if I choose to. But being able to speak something that will actually benefit somebody, that I'm able to do because of the mercy of Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Jayapataka Swami, and Srila Prabhupada. So, and for me, this is an opportunity for me to reconnect and to in a sense, retake my vows. Every time I sit on this Vyasasana, it is a push for me to be better and to represent Srila Prabhupada and our Guru Vargas in a better way. So it is for me that I do this as much as it is for try and share something with you. That's all I can do is share something with you. So, that is the thing. So, seize the opportunities. And like I said, the choice is yours. It's in your hands. You are all here right now because you've come to a point in your spiritual life where Krishna is saying, I'm here. And there's that example that's given in the Bhagavad Gita purport where Krishna is the 2 birds sitting in a tree, right? And Krishna is sitting there watching us, and all he wants is for us to turn around and look at him. So the choice is ours, yours and mine. It's in our hands, and it's our true nature, and we just need to turn around and look at him. So, like to end there with one last verse. Yad atra skalitam kinchit vidvamsaha purayantu tat. Yad atra saushtadam kinchit tad gurur eva menahi. If there was any error in my presentation, then may the learned souls correct me. However, if there was anything nice in it, then it belongs to my guru and not to me. So I'm speaking just from purports of Srila Prabhupada, lectures of Srila Prabhupada, any kind of thing that I could, hopefully share with you with a few of my experiences in Krishna consciousness. So if there are any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. I will try to answer. I don't know everything, but I will delve, and I know there's other devotees who could help if I get stuck. That's my saving grace. I always have God brothers and God sisters to back me up, right? They got my back. So any questions, please? I remember somebody said that if there's no questions, that means you guys all agree with me. I don't know. So I guess if there's any comments? No? Okay. Then. Thank you, Uncle. Yes. Please. Oh.
I know there was a sage who at some point he said the human conscious is special. However, I always get the feeling according to the Krishna's teachings over here, animals are aware of what they are. There are some stories in the scriptures about animals realizing they were reincarnated for many times. I don't know, they are used fables, but may you elaborate a little bit
Well,
about that?
I mean, the only one that I know is the story of Jadabharata, which I just said about the deer, where he knew who he was.
There you go.
Okay, so he knew who he was, yes. And like I said, we don't know, I don't know, Dravida Prabhu, if you know of any other story of any other, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the dog, I mean, that, oh. Yeah, so yeah, yes, Jatayu. So yeah, Jatayu, Hanuman, yes. They're not the same kind of, animal that we think of in that sense. In the modern age, right? Yes, by me. Oh, wait, one sec, hold on, Viva.
So I think it was from the Nrsingadev book they have in Mayapur of all the Nrsingadev stories, and there was a flood in Mayapur, and and Pracharya is still doing his service in the flood and like waist deep water, and a big cobra came swimming into the temple, and the Pracharya was thinking, what do I, he came right up and he was thinking, what do I do? Do I continue doing this puja or do I run for my life? And he said, this is Nrsingadev. I had to continue doing my puja. And the cobra swam around Nrsingadev or counter or clockwise 3 times and then swam out. So.
Right, so, and that circumambulate. yes, Prabhu, he did circumambulate. Yes, he did. That's a new word. So I don't, and like I said, there are the animals in the dhams that Srila Prabhupada says we don't know, right? And it's what to speak of animals, Jadabharata. The king was talking to somebody who was quote, quote, dumb and lame, right? So this goes to show that it's not just animals we need to be compassionate. We as devotees need to be very, very, very careful how we speak to every single solitary person, devotee or not, because we understand that who is in their heart. Krishna, yes. Wait, hold on.
What was his reaction?
Well, he offered his obeisances and he asked for his forgiveness. And he listened to what he had to get, what Jadabharata had to say, and then went on. And he eventually, became a devotee. He was a devotee. He just became purified. Yeah. Balaram, please add.
Yeah, about this Bharat, pastime or account. You were mentioning how he was meditating out in the forest and how,
yes.
He became overly attached to a deer, and then because of that, he, when he died, he was thinking of the deer. He became a deer. So it's been brought up in past, like by our teachers and their commentaries that because the thing is, he was by himself, he was alone, and he was meditating alone in the forest. Right, and they become all bewildered. So it was brought up that if he was in the association of devotees, they would have told him that, hey, you're getting a little, sidetracked here.
Yes, thank you. That good point. I forgot that. Yes.
You need to get back on track.
Right.
Hey, Prabhu, you need to get back on track.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting
yes,
thing.
That's a very important point. Yes, that was brought up. Thank you, Prabhu.
We have to try to, benefit from the association of devotees.
Yes, so that's another reason Prabhupada has ISKCON here for devotee, right? He created He created ISKCON for that actual purpose, for us to have a family to come to as support. Yes, Dravida Prabhu.
In that line.
Yes.
Exactly in support of that, there's this wonderful verse by Jadabharata near the end of his instructions to Rahugana. I remember reading this. What happened with it now? And, 5:13. Oh, God. Okay, here it is. 5:12:16. And I was in Toronto, and Gopal Krishna Maharaj was there for the Rath Yatra, and he gave a class on this verse, and it was such a beautiful verse. I memorized it right from the board. I'd never done that before. It's a short verse with a very short purport, exactly pertinent to what you're talking about. 5:12:16, Jadabharata says, Tasman naro sanga susanga jata ganasine naiva vivrikna moha harim tariha katana shuddhabhyam labdasmatir yatyati paramadvana. I'll read the translation real quick, and the purport is very short. Simply by associating with exalted devotees, anyone can attain perfection of knowledge, and with the sword of knowledge can cut to pieces the illusory associations within this material world. Through the association of devotees, one can engage in the service of the Lord by hearing and chanting. Thus one can revive his dormant Krishna consciousness, and sticking to the cultivation of Krishna consciousness, return home back to Godhead even in this life. Purport, very short. To become liberated from material bondage, one must give up the association of worldly people and accept the association of devotees. Positive and negative processes are mentioned in this regard. Through the association of devotees, one develops Krishna consciousness, which is dormant within. The Krishna consciousness movement is giving this chance to everyone. We are giving shelter to everyone who is serious about progressing in Krishna consciousness. We arrange for their lodging and board so that they can peacefully cultivate Krishna consciousness and return home back to Godhead even in this life. And that's the end of the chapter.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Draupadi Prabhu. Thank you, Balaram. Thank you for adding that. So I think that's it. Thank you very much, and Hare Krishna, everybody.